before we go to a break, it's gonna be well to go to a break because we're actually now, since we got loads of time till next, we're gonna have a quick mid-season review for you all on stream here of what's been happening. And these are the standings as of week 4 that we're gonna be having a quick look at. And first off, we're gonna have a look at Division 4 here. So we're having a quick look at the standings here. Of course, right at the top, ILV Purple with a 4-0 record, and Bad Karma just below them, also at 4-0. And then we have Disconnected Esports Epsilon in third with 3 wins to 1, and then Incendiary Esports to round out the top 4 with a 2-2 record. That's our current top 4. And we go down the list a bit more because SCNet, Revamp Esports, Fake Stop Mistakes, Rescue Esports B, Gaming District, and Pro AM United. So that is Division 4 as of the end of last week there. So it seems like, ILV Purple and Bad Karma proving themselves as the top 2 right now, Simdog. So yeah, it's very interesting what's happening in the in Division 4 there. Those 2 teams really putting up quite a performance.
I mean, yeah, ILV Purple, you sort of got to feel when you've got a few ILV teams actually in the higher divisions too. You've got to think, and you just have to imagine, will they get any coaching similar to the higher teams in the higher divisions? And if they do, will it be the same level? And if you're getting the same level of coaching as the other teams are, then it's going to be proven in league play, and they're going to be showing it while they are playing. And they've definitely been doing that so far. I mean, I believe they have a game differential of 12, which means in the 4 games they've played, they've won every single one 3-0. So they are definitely proving to be a dominant force. But Bad Karma are also up there, 4-0, but they've got a differential of 8, which is just a 4 difference. But those 2 teams, it seems like they are going to be the ones fighting it out at the top. Disconnected Esports, Epsilon, though, not too far behind. And as soon as one of those 2 teams drop a single series, they'll be there waiting to pounce.
Yeah, indeed. So that rounds out Division 4 here. Of course, very impressive for them. Now we're going to have a quick look in just a second for Division 3, which we're just going to get on the screen now. There you have it. So we'll take a quick look at Division 3, of course. At the top is the wonderfully named, and I am a big fan of this name, Waifu Fan Club. Then we have TC Esports, ILV Lime, and Breakdown Xenon to have our top 4. And then in the rest of the table, we have Incendia Spark, Phonics Inferno. That's a play on Phoenix Inferno from many seasons ago. We have Pizza Boys, Override Esports, Emmy Garner, and then Sunday Storm down at 10th. And so this time, only Waifu Fan Club are actually the only undefeated team, of course. Personally, I would say it's not a surprise because anyone that uses an anime profile picture is absolutely cracked at the game. But aside from that, of course, it's been really good for them. Plus 10 game difference as well. So they're showing that they are currently the top dogs in Division 3 here. But of course, the Portuguese side, I believe, TC Esports, not too far behind in second. And we have another ILV team, ILV Lime, in third there. And so it's maybe looking like a bit more of a difference in Division 3. There's more of a clear favourite in this one. And of course, as you do see for the position change, Waifu Fan Club actually moved up to first as the end of week 4. So it's happy days for them here.
I mean, yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting battle going into the final 4 weeks. It looks like it's going to be an interesting battle for the top 4 with 4 teams there. You got 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, and 6th place. All teams are on 2 series wins and 2 series losses. It's just going to be who can keep winning, and whoever loses might be out within the next coming weeks. Breakdown Xenon and ILV Lime currently up there with a positive game differential, whereas Incendia Spark, Phonics Inferno both on the negative differential.
Yes, indeed. So that rounds out the Division 3 standings, and now we're going to head over to Division 2.2, I believe. Yes, here we are. We have them here. So Division 2.2, of course, we will take a look at Division 2.1, who we just casted earlier, 2 teams there. But for Division 2.2, our top 4 here, Emorge Charlie, who stay in first position, followed by Alavi Black, Cosmos Odysseum, I can't pronounce anything, and Team Peculiarity as our top 4. And then the rest of the table, we have Nox Esports, Tampa, Global Cobalt, Scorch Esports, Code 4, Ascension Helios, and Breakdown Genesis. There's LV teams everywhere in these divisions here. So, but also an Ascension team, we do like to see that, of course. They are not had a great season, 0-4 currently in the standings. Of course, Code 4 and LV Black, they are yet to play each other. Of course, they have a postponed game that they need to catch up on in that. So for Emerge, Charlie looking like a great start. Of course, going by our difference, actually, a lot of their games seem to have been pretty close. Because the +7 difference is a little bit surprising, actually, for a team that's 4-0 here. In fact, LV Black is right below them, has a better game difference, but they're only behind because they've had one less game played. But that one result that we are yet to wait for from week 4 between LV and Code 4 could really make all the difference for LV Black and maybe put them up into first place here.
I mean, yeah, LV Black, they've won all the games so far 3-0, not lost a single game in a series. They've not dropped a single game in a series. They've won every single one so far. So if we come back after they play the next game, I think my prediction is we're going to see them at the top of the table with a 4-0 record, and potentially, if they get another sweep, it's going to be a 12-0 differential.
Yes, exactly. And, it's good that you mentioned that actually about LV Black. They've not lost one game this season. It's been all sweeps for them. And to be fair, that squad is very strong. You've got the likes of, Karst Wolf, of course, very own Cheesecake, as well, representing LV Black, who's our broadcaster for tonight. So, yeah, it's a very strong team. And so I really do expect that they'll be able to make it into P1 come the end of week 5. Provided they can get all caught up with their matches. So yeah, looking very nice for them. And of course, Sega Ascension Helios down there, of course, a legendary team. I didn't think they'd be so far down the order here. But nonetheless, they were 10th and then they moved up to 9th because they were able to get slightly better results from the breakdown team. So still plenty of time for them though. As now I believe we'll be moving over to 2.1 here. Oh yeah, Cheesecake actually just said in our live chat that apparently they're at the top now because they've already played. They played on Monday, so 12 games to 0, which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. There's some dog, not dropping a single game thus far in the season. That's insane from them.
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and you're always talking about the potential winners of the season. It's always about consistency. It always comes down to consistency. You can't play extremely well one match and just sit back and do nothing for the next match. You're never going to win playing like that. Consistency is key. And I think winning every single game that you've played and winning every single series you've played, I think that kind of is the epitome of consistency. It is the definition, and that is exactly what you want to be doing throughout the season if they can continue it on as well and maybe get 15-0, sorry, 18-0, etc., etc. That would be absolutely insane, and we could potentially be looking at record breakers then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really hope LV Black could do something like that. But I'll have to do it for Division 2.2. I believe it will now be 2.1 coming up next. So we did just see two of these sides, Rise Esports and Gdańsk Aztecs. So as a matter of fact, Rise Esports will be in first in this one. So yeah, it's looking really good for them. 5-0, I believe, is their win to loss ratio. And of course, that'll be up to a 12 difference because they got the 3-0 sweep. Whereas Gdańsk Aztecs will be in tied 10th or 9th, should I say, down at the bottom. But going to the order here, of course, as of week 4 is Rise Esports, Rocket Core Pluto, Ascension Draco, and then Fort Templar Sunrise as our top 4. And then going to the rest, we have Revamp Esports, ILV Forest Green, Hunka, Azer Red, Gdańsk Aztecs, and Astro Atlas. Now, so Doug, I actually got an interesting one about Gdańsk Aztecs. We did just see them play on the stream here, and they looked pretty decent against Rise Esports, who are the current first team here for us. And I'm thinking that whilst Gdańsk Aztecs, they're going to be 0-5 now actually because they have now played, one of the games they had to catch up on, and this week's game. So they're going to be down in 10th now, but, you'd come to think that maybe, especially against some of the teams lower down the division, that they'd be able to get some results and push themselves further up. Probably not into the top 4. I don't think that's possible, but at least put themselves outside of the relegation zone, and to maybe keep themselves a spot in the division for next season.
I mean, yeah, we mentioned it during the game. They did show signs of being an incredibly good, established Division 2.1 side. They didn't seem bad at all at times. They seemed like they could really battle against the best teams, obviously the best being Rise Esports. They had a close game too, but it was game 1 and 3 where we really saw the mistakes starting to come out. I think that was the worst that we could have seen them play against Rise Esports. It couldn't have got much worse than that. They really did play... they played down to expectations. I did expect them to lose, but maybe not as much as what they did. It was 5-1, 2-1 in game 2. It was a really good game, and then 5-1 again. You just can't be doing like that. Again, it comes down to consistency. If they play like they did in game 2 against all the other teams, I reckon they could easily be getting up into that 7th or maybe 6th place spot.
Yeah, definitely. But really, consistency is a massive issue for Cadalians, because their first game was pretty poor, to be honest. Their second game was brilliant in comparison. They did still lose, but they made it a much better game. And then game 3, they just fall flat again. And it's that consistency they found in game 2, where they're playing solid, managing to match up to these teams where they'll be able to get the wins if they play up to that standard. But you can tell they're not able to do that consistently, and that's something that they really got to work on going into the future. But now I want to take a look at sort of our current top 4, especially in that top 3, Rise Esports, RC Pluto, Ascension Draco in particular. Those 3 teams are looking very solid indeed. And I could actually say, it may seem a bit like a bold prediction, but any of those 3, maybe even Fort Temple or Sunrise, you could make a case of, any one of the top 4 could be title contenders as well. Of course, they have to battle against some of the teams in the other Division 2 conference. But, it's a pretty stacked top 4 that we have in this division here.
I mean, yeah, I was lucky enough to commentate one of the earlier Fort Templar Samurai's games, but unfortunately they fell victim to Rise Esports yet again. It was a clean 3-0 win for Rise Esports, but Fort Templar did play very well. There was only a 2-goal difference in the first 2 games that they played, but it was the 3rd game where they really fell apart. But they did play really well. I said that at the time they looked like playoff contenders 100%, but Rise Esports were just honestly too strong, like they have been for most of the season. But you do also have RC Pluto and Ascension Draco, both 3-0 right now. They are playing very, very well, and nothing's to say they can't keep the unbeaten record going.
I could definitely see them doing that. Of course, against some of the other opposition in the division, it's going to be a tough task. But if you can remain undefeated in this particular division for any of those teams, then that's going to be a very impressive feat indeed. So yeah, Division 2.1 is definitely one to keep an eye on if you're interested in the ECC here. But now we're going to move on to Division 1. Again, there are 2 conferences here, and we're going to start with Division 1.2. And again, this is a very interesting one with some potential surprises, but it's also a fairly stacked division. So going to the order here, of course, our top 3, all of them undefeated as of the end of week 4. I don't know how true that is now, though. It will be Phoenix Gaming, Donkey Punch, and Wookie Esports. And then to round out our top 4, Rocket Course Saturn. And then going on the rest of the order, we have the Nameless Paradox, We Vicious, Ascension Curios, Code Red, Astro, Cosmos, and Echo Zone. And so this is a pretty stacked lineup, isn't it? Donkey Punch, to start with, that's a team that I've been very impressed with. They recently made some changes, though. They had, Nullite left the roster. I can't remember who they brought in to replace him, though, but nonetheless, it's been a good team. And of course, I've not seen Phoenix Gaming or Wookie Esports play yet, but I've heard, obviously they've been doing really good. And then you sort of see some surprises. Like, I'm personally surprised first off to see, the likes of, for example, Ascension Curios that far down the order. I was thinking they would maybe be closer to the top four, but for them especially, it's been a rough start. And we Vicious, despite them having some players that don't play the game as much nowadays, still I would maybe think they'd be higher up as well. But then again, it goes to show how deep the talent pool you can say is in this division here.
I mean, yeah, again, I've had the absolute honour of seeing these teams play quite a few times. I've commentated matches for Wookiee Esports and We Vicious, and also two teams you mentioned specifically there, Donkey Punch with Nulai Nuri and Moggy, three extremely good players, and they were playing against Ascension Kyrios, who do have Chucho, Kurza, and Maki. And that was an incredibly close series between those two. It was a 3-2. It was a Game 5 winner in favour of Donkey Punch. And again, just like it normally is in the final game, it's where the losers seem to fall apart. And it was a 5-1 win in that final game for Donkey Punch. And that's really where Kyrios just seemed like they'd given up. And I can tell you 100%, Donkey Punch unbeaten right now. They're 4-0. And if Kyrios had been playing like they were against Donkey Punch, they could easily be higher than they are right now. 1-3 really isn't what you'd expect from them. And Wookiee Esports 2, they are up there, 4-0 as well. The 30 at MCO and Scrib, a very, very strong roster, and they've won all their games so far. And they've got an 8 game differential, so you can definitely see that they're a 7 differential, sorry. You can definitely see that they are a team who need to be put in place, and you've just got to ask whether Donkey Punch or Phoenix Gaming or maybe even RC Saturn, who are just sat below them there, could one of those teams be the one to put them in the place?
Yeah, definitely. It could be any of those teams really, because this top four in particular is very much stacked, and if these are I wouldn't be surprised to see the current top four be the ones that go on to the Division 1 playoffs. In just a couple months' time. So, yeah, it's a very strong field that we have here in Division 1, and really a lot of these teams can still do so much. Even the ones sort of in the mid-table, I could see maybe going further up the order. We mentioned Ascension Kyrios, for example. Carlos was actually saying that Chucho was having internet issues in that game, and so that obviously did affect the outcome of the series. But even still, they've still got like half the season left. We're currently in the middle of week 5, and so they've got loads of time to really make it back. They could perhaps, if you get the results they need, secure a playoff spot from their current position. 1-3 records even at this stage of the season, isn't too late necessarily. But they know that there's a lot of pressure on these following games, because they need to be getting those wins to give themselves the best possible chance of having a playoff spot. All right, well, we will now head on to Division 1.1 here, and this is going to be where our next game of the stream match is going to be taking place. As I've just been reminded, it is Gedalian, Solaritas, and Daggers Barnon who are going to be playing there. So this one's going to be important to kind of give the context for our next game. Of course, taking a look at the order here, of course, Zero Mercy, Blizzard Wizards, RC Neptune, and Daggers Barnon rounding out our top 4, and then the rest of the teams have DSEA, Red Sun, Boosted Beans, Stool Sample, Pomado, Regnan, and Gedalian Solaritas. So, when you take a look at this one, Simdog, our next match has to do with these two teams. Daggers Barnon currently in 4th, and Gedalian Solaritas all the way down the bottom. It almost seems like our last game almost. We got a team that's quite high up in the table in the playoff positions versus a team that's way down at the bottom. This one I can maybe expect to be a more closely fought series, but you can almost say that Daggers Barnon are fully expected to win that, because the Gedalian Solaritas have had a pretty lackluster season, to say the least.
Yeah, you do want to think that Daggers Barnon are almost expected to win, but if you look at the last game, it was a 3-0 loss. They got swept by none other than the team that is sat above them on the table. They lost to RC Neptune in the previous game. they're on bad form right now. If they continue playing like they did in the last game, then you could say Celeritas could come up with something and maybe get the first win of the season. Who knows? It's one that we're going to have to wait and see because you've got two teams on bad form, really. But you can only hope that both of them can pick it up and we see a really good match. That's all that matters. We want to see some good gameplay. But yeah, Dagesban and they're sat around mid-table. Not doing too bad, but again, just really bad form. But very much like every single division we've seen right now, the person at the top, the team at the top are unbeaten. They have 4 series wins to none yet again, and then rock bottom is literally rock bottom with no wins whatsoever.
Yeah, indeed. So, of course, that's Zero Marcy's side, as you just pointed out. Looking really good. The only undefeated team in the division as of this rate. Of course, Dagesban, as you said, maybe struggling with form a little bit, and so that does give Galanis a chance to perhaps get them that first win that they need and push themselves up the table, because, again, a 0-3 record, you can most definitely recover from that. But it's going to take a lot for them. You know, if you've had a really bad start like this, it's going to be tough to bounce back from that. So yeah, it's again some strong sides that could join the other Division 1 teams in the playoffs here. Now, not as convinced that this will stay the playoff order, especially with Dagesban starting to dip in form a little bit. Maybe it could allow some of the teams, in the mid-table to push into those positions. Of course, I expect the likes of Zero Mars, Staples of Wizards, and probably RC Neptune to stay there, but Dagesban is a little bit more of a question mark at the current rate.
Yeah, you do have to say, especially after, like I did say earlier, I see Neptune beating Dagesban 3-0. They need to rectify that result in the next game that we are going to cast, of course. But we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see indeed. So, as we said, that Division 1.1 match will be taking place at 9:30 CEC, so in 40 minutes' time. So if you do want to watch that, then be sure to stick around for it. But that'll have to do for Division 1, and then we're going to move on to the Champions Division here. And of course, Champions Conference 2. In fact, the one I'm playing in, funnily enough. So let's take a look at the top 4. Goes Magpie Gaming in first. The team I'm on, Retirement Home, second. Then Trinitas Esports Remix in third. The Storm in fourth. And then for the rest of the table, we have Ascension Trinity, Morecats, SSCEA, Domino Esport, Crystal Gaming, and Noctis. Now, one team that I'm very surprised about is Domino Esport. I would expect them to be much higher than 8th, but to be fair, they forfeited their first 2 series and only got their first win very recently. Now, personally, I see them as a top 4 contender, even still, especially as they've recently added Sapphics to their roster, and they've been playing with Sapphics instead of Taze. So I'm thinking that's a team to look out for. Despite being an 8th, they're definitely one that could rise back up into the playoff spots, because the record, maybe by their standards, is pretty bad, but when you consider the circumstances, they're more than capable of coming back from it and securing a playoff spot.
I mean, yeah, Domino Esports, they are another team that we did recently see on stream. They were playing against none other than Ascension Trinity, who are sat in 5th right now. The loss that they received against Domino Esports actually sent them from the playoff zone. They were in 4th, I believe, and then they were sent down to 5th. And it was a very convincing performance from Domino Esports. I'm not going to lie, they won 2-0, 5-1, and then they lost 4-1. That was a really good game from Trinity. But then Domino Esports, they won again 2-1, and that the roster of Major Esberg and Sapphics, it's a continuous cycle of just constant pressure, never letting it get into their own half. And when they get into the swing of it, they really do seem unbeatable. So if they can keep it going, then I do have to say they could be matching the levels of Magma Gaming. And I don't mean to boost your ego here, but Retirement Hunt.
Thank you. Yeah. I do believe they could be at that level, though. Like, I would honestly say they could be the best team in this division. That's just my personal opinion, because I actually cast for the Domino Esport team in the Teleliga, which is the Norwegian National League, and their season so far hasn't been great. in the first 3 weeks of the season, I think it's week 5 is about to come up. I will double check this though. I really quickly put up the Wikipedia page, but to put it simply, their season hasn't gone well in that, even though it's a lot more stacked than this division is. So far, yeah, they had a draw, a loss, and finally a win in the last Thursday. And so we're about to enter week 5 in that division soon. The next matches are actually taking place tomorrow. So they've not done well on that, but they did make that roster change, bring in Safix to replace Taze, and they were able to get a result off of it. They took down Razzle Dazzlers, which are a very strong side indeed in that competition. So I really think they can come up the order here and make it to the top 4. I have no doubts about that, especially if they can beat those caliber of teams in other competitions here. And also another team that I may be a bit concerned about, Ascension Trinity, who you did mention recently played Domino. Of course, they're the ones that you can maybe look as a playoff contender, but they are starting to drop off a little bit. I believe they did lose their last couple of games actually, so they're a team that really needs to get back on form going forward if they want to stay up in the top half of the table.
Yeah, and there's nothing to say that they can't keep it going, because they are a really good side, and we've seen that they're a really good side too. But we just need to see more consistency. Again, like I mentioned earlier, consistency is the absolute key. Whether you're going for the top, whether you're going for a mid-table battle, or whether you're going for playoffs, you need to be consistent.
Yeah, consistency really is the key, and like I would say, it's one of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of a good team in Rocket League here. But that'll do it for Champions Conference 2. I think it's now time we go over to the Champions Conference 1 up next year, and this will round out the Champions Division. So, all right, this one's going to be a bit of a pain, but here we go. So, our first team, tier first place is Volcano Esports. Second place team, I am not even going to try to pronounce that, because that's a German name, and I'm British, and it's just not happening, is it? But if a German person in the chat wants to give us a hand, then feel free to do that. Up in third, we have Corona Academy, and then Disconnected Esports to round out our top 4. And then the rest of the table: Sports Lab and Esport, Domino Academy, Fish, Damage Inc. Gold, Nox Esports Atlanta, and Insist Blackout. This is pretty interesting, Dog. I believe we actually casted Disconnected not that long ago, and they're a team. I don't remember who it was against. It might be an Insist Blackout. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Blackout,
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay, so this guy Esports, that's a team. Yeah, we definitely expect them to be in the top 4. Of course, they're playing with Lewis, Hendo, Herbs, and Growly in that. And I think recently they also brought in Crispy, if I'm not mistaken. And so, if you were to, let's say, take Lewis, Hendo and put in Crispy, that's a very, very dangerous lineup. You're talking easily Vortex level quality team right there. So they're currently in the top 4. You got to play like Growly on there, who's a fantastic player, easily up there in the bubble scene. But of course, you got your rest of your team. Volcano's been doing very well. Sino Corona Academy, and of course, a team that I'm actually a little bit shocked about is Fish. That team consisting of, I think it's JK, Timsy, and Cactic. I would be thinking they'd be higher up the order, but they've had a bit of a struggle so far this season.
Yeah, I would have thought that they'd been higher up too, but 2-2 with literally it's 2s across the board. It's 2 wins, 2 losses, and a 2-game differential. It's not something that you would have expected to see from them. I would have expected to see definitely a 3-1. But 2-2, it's just not what I expected. I really did think they'd be battling it out at the top against the likes of Volcano Esports. And Dennis did say in chat it is pronounced Hobbelschloonzongang, which is definitely a mouthful, but still, they the likes of them.
Very impressive. Thank you, Dennis, for giving us the pronunciation there for that. So there you have it, German names, everyone. Yeah, it's a really interesting division. Of course, as we said, Fish is a team that we maybe expect to be higher up the order here. But other than that, it's looking pretty much, as we'd expect here. Of course, Volcano Esports is an interesting one, actually. because they very recently made a roster change. I don't remember. Your hype got replaced by somebody. I will actually have a really quick look because, I'm tired of being lazy. Let's just say that. I will see if I can find it. I will just take a quick second to do it. If I don't, then that's what I hear. Okay, no, that was not it. Never mind. That's a cap from me. All right, here we go. Finally, Fangs actually replacing Hype and Volcano Esports. So Volcano had a really strong start to the season with Hype, but Hype apparently decided to leave the roster here for reasons unknown. There, so what do you make of that, Simdog? Of course, we don't really know how Fangs plays, but a roster change being made like that, even with Volcano having a good start to the season. How do you think that could affect the Volcano Esports side going forward?
I mean, it's either going to make them or it's going to completely break them. It could be one of the biggest roster changes. It could be one of the biggest deciding factors in the whole season, really, because we could see them go from the 4-0 record they've got now to a potential 4-4 soon enough. Who knows? But it's just that they need to keep the play style going, because you do have to say it's not necessarily the players, but it's the play style, and it's just the players that make it look even better than what it is. But often, especially at this high level, it definitely comes down to the brains behind the operation and how the players think about what they're doing. And if they can keep it going, if they can keep playing the same similar way, then they can definitely stay at the top. But we're going to have to wait and see till he plays his first few games, and I hope that we can see some on stream at some point, because they will definitely be an extremely interesting watch.
Yeah, definitely. They're a team that I really want to watch going forward as well, so I hope we get to see some more games for them on stream. But I think that'll basically close out Champions Conference 1. Of course, the Champions Division as a whole looking really good. Now, finally, we're going to go on to the big one, the Vortex. To round out our divisions here. So first off, the current order of the teams. So in first, we do have Orgless, followed by 124Q, Mercury Esports, and Team Shizou to round out our top 4. And then we have Damage Inc. and Ignite Esports, HWU Esports, Trinitas Esports, Nox Esports, and Dark Cat as our top, as our 10 teams from the Vortex this season. Now, Orgless, another team I want to touch on a little bit, because that roster, we take a look at Nugget, Crusher, and Fours. They're a team that I would not, at this point, expect to be in first, but my word, they've had a cracking season so far. They beat HW in week 1, then beat Dark Cats, both those in game 5, then got a sweep over Trinitas. I believe I was actually casting that series. And then most recently, and this one's probably the biggest shocker of them all, getting a 3-1 win over Team Shizou. Of course, Shizou is now playing with Penny, Swift, and Creamy. I mean, that's a stacked roster and a half, and they managed to beat them. So, Orgless, what a performance they've had thus far.
I mean, yeah, 124Q versus Mercury Esports, both joint in second and third there. They were the teams that were... Originally, it was when I last spoke about them, I was casting that specific game. It was first at the time versus fourth. And Mercury Esports managed to come out on top, which was a surprise, I have to admit. But August was sat there in second place, and I said at the time, if 124Q drop this game, then 100% August will be sat there licking their lips, just ready to pounce. And what else did they do? They went and won that series, and they are now unbeaten at the top, the only team in the Vortex division that is unbeaten so far. So they are doing incredibly well, and the Vortex, it's such a high-level division. When you say that a team's unbeaten, you just have to think, wow, they must be good.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as I said, it's surprising that, but Orgos, they've been doing something really right here. To be unbeaten at this point, considering the competition, I mean, that's very commendable in and of itself. So, now looking other places, it's kind of almost what we expect the rest of the order of the Vortex division. Apart from Orgos, it goes 124Q. They did actually lose to Mercury Esports in game 5, which, Myotis, Benny, and Tommy, that's a pretty strong roster you got going there. Ignite Esports. All right. Well, this one's going to be interesting actually, because they're currently in sixth seemingly, but I mean, I did not expect them to be so high on the order here. I mean, Destiny, Ultras, France, and Detroit. I didn't think they'd actually be so high in the standings so far. I mean, take a look at where the ones have come from. They got a game 5 win over HWU, a game 5 win over Dark Cats, and then they did lose to I'm just making a quick look. 1-4Q 3-0. And I mean, not exactly the top teams here in the division, but you got to admit, still Ignite are actually doing significantly better than we thought coming into the season.
I mean, yeah, they are. It says on the standings there that it's they played 3 games, won 2 and lost 1. The next game, I do believe, will be against Trinitas Esports. So if they were to lose that, then they'd actually go level on points with Trinitas Esports, who are currently sat in 8th. You've got to say there's a bit of a gap, really, because you've got your teams with 0 losses like August, then you got 1-5Q and Mercury Esports 1 loss, and then that's when you reach the levels of Shizuru, Damage Inc. and potentially after next game it will be Ignite Esports, or they could jump all the way up into 3rd place, joint 3rd place, joint 2nd place. They could find themselves in the playoffs, and I'm sure it will be they will be extremely happy with that. I mean, you did say it's gone a bit against what you thought, but if they're playing this well, then you have to say you've kind of been just shut up a bit, really, because to do it in the Vortex League consistently, it is extremely impressive. So maybe it was just, I don't know, maybe they just found something that clicked. Who knows?
Who knows? And I'd really want to see them on stream to see what that is. And so maybe if we got that Trinitas versus Ignite game on stream, or even their week 5 game, which is against Shazoo, that'll be an interesting one, and we'll see what they're made of, really. So yeah, Vortex looking very interesting, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of the season plays out, to see our top 4 here, because no matter what, it's going to be a banger of a playoff. But I think that'll have to do here for our mid-season review. Of course, this is something we come up with on the fly, but I hope you all did enjoy that from here. And we're now actually going to hop to a little break, because Sindong and I have been talking for way too long here. But up next on the stream, we will be having, as we mentioned earlier, our next match of the night, which will be Gdansk Stars against Daggers Barden in Division 1. And so that'll be coming up in 25 minutes' time. So sit tight, everyone. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly.